I never imagined my life would change so drastically after losing my husband. The only thing Michael asked of me before he passed was simple. He held my hand with what little strength he had left and whispered, "Please do not go to the retreat property. Anna, promise me." His eyes were pleading, filled with fear and love at the same time. He promised, because I had always honored his wishes. For months after his death, I tried to keep that promise. But curiosity is a persistent companion. It grows quietly until it becomes impossible to ignore. Michael and I had been married for 17 years. He died suddenly after a massive stroke, leaving me a widow at 58. With our daughter Emily away in college, the emptiness was unbearable. My life felt like an unfinished sentence, cut off mid-thought. 2 months after the funeral, I met with our attorney, Mr. Harrison. His polished wooden desk felt cold and formal as he slid a small box and an envelope across to me. "Your husband left explicit instructions," he explained. "These were to be given to you only after his passing." Inside the box was a heavy antique key with a leaf-shaped keychain, R26 Denise and Crymond. The envelope bore my name in Michael's unmistakable handwriting. I asked, "What is this key for?" Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses. "It is for a property in Lake Arrowhead. Your husband purchased it about 4 years ago. He called it the Crestwood Estate." I was stunned. Michael had never told me about another property. In fact, he had asked me never to visit it. Now, after his death, I was being handed a key and an invitation. Nothing made sense. Mr. Harrison continued, "The property has gained tremendous value in the past 2 years. A luxury resort developer, Summit Resorts, has made several multi-million-dollar offers." My pulse quickened. Michael had always been careful with money. We lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. How could he afford this? Why keep it a secret? With trembling hands, I opened the letter. "My dearest Anna, if you are reading this, it means my time ended sooner than expected. Forgive me for the secrets I kept. The house is yours now. I know I made you promise never to go there, but I am releasing you from that promise. I ask you to visit once, before you decide what to do with the property. In the study you will find my laptop. The password is the date of our first meeting, followed by the word hope. I love you more than I could ever say. Michael." I pressed the letter to my chest, my eyes blurring with tears. Even after death, he was still surprising me. But what haunted me was his choice to hide it from me while alive. The next day, I drove to Lake Arrowhead. The gate was carved wood, with the name Crestwood Estate in wrought iron across the top. My heart pounded as the key turned in the lock. Beyond the gate stretched a property far more beautiful than I imagined. It was not a simple country house. It was a stone and wood mansion surrounded by perfectly maintained gardens and towering oak trees. Inside, I froze in the doorway. The entrance opened into a vast living room with a stone fireplace, but it was not the architecture that stole my breath. It was the walls. Every space was filled with paintings of orchids, my lifelong passion. Orchids of every type and color surrounded me like a gallery. Michael had built this for me. He had listened, remembered, and created something in secret that touched the deepest part of who I was. Near a window stood a silver laptop with a single white orchid resting on the lid. My hands trembled as I reached for it. Before I could open it, the crunch of tires on gravel broke the silence. A black SUV pulled up behind my car. 3 men stepped out, each with Michael's sharp features. His brothers. I had never been close with them. They walked toward the porch with the confidence of men who believed the house belonged to them. The eldest, Marcus, pounded on the door. "Anna, we know you are in there. We need to talk." I backed away, my heart racing. Michael had warned me about his family, though never in detail. Their voices were insistent, their knocks growing louder. But my eyes stayed fixed on the laptop. It held the answers he had left for me. I typed in the password, October 121990 Hope. The screen lit up. A folder appeared, titled simply, "For Anna." Inside were hundreds of video files, each one dated. I clicked the first. Michael's face filled the screen. He looked healthy, smiling. That crooked smile I loved. "Hello, my love," he said. "If you are watching this, it means I am gone, and you came to Crestwood, even though I begged you not to. I should have known curiosity would win. I recorded a video for every day of your first year without me. A year to guide you, to explain everything, and to keep you company. Tears streamed down my face as his voice filled the room. The knocks on the door grew more aggressive. Marcus shouted again, "Anna, open the door. We need to discuss the property." But I stayed seated, eyes locked on Michael. His voice was steady, his eyes clear. "First, I need to tell you why I bought this house, and why my brothers will fight you for it." The pounding on the door became a background rhythm to Michael's confession. At that moment, I understood that this was only the beginning of a journey I never expected to take. The sound of Michael's voice carried me through the chaos outside the door. His brothers continued to knock, their voices growing impatient, but I ignored them. The video consumed all of my attention. 3 years ago, Michael said on the screen, I was diagnosed with a cerebral aneurysm. The doctors told me it was like a time bomb. They gave me between 2 and 5 years. I chose not to tell you or Emily. I wanted to live fully, without pity, without fear. I wanted our final years to be normal. My chest tightened. He had hidden something so immense from me. He denied me the chance to prepare. Anger burned in my heart, mixed with sorrow. But as I looked into his eyes on the screen, I could feel his love even in his silence. The pounding at the door stopped. Through the side window, I saw Marcus step back, talking in low tones with his brothers. They pulled out papers and made a phone call. They were not leaving. Michael's voice continued. Anna, I knew my brothers would come for this property. They mocked me when I bought it. They said I was wasting money on a place filled with bad memories. But when Summit Resorts announced the project, everything changed. Suddenly, Crestwood was worth millions. They will tell you stories. They will twist history. Do not believe them. The house is yours. I made sure of it. I paused the video and wiped my tears. My hands were trembling, but determination started to rise in me. Michael had left me not just a house but a map for survival. When the doorbell rang again, it was not the harsh knock of his brothers. It was a calm, steady knock. A man's voice called out, Mrs. Sterling, this is Officer Davis from the County Sheriff's Office. May I speak with you? I opened the door slightly and saw a young officer standing with the 3 brothers beside him. Marcus held up a document. We have a court order to inspect the property. This is family land and part of an ongoing dispute. I took a deep breath and forced myself to stand tall. Officer, I said calmly, before you act on anything they have shown you, I ask you to review this. I handed him the blue folder Michael had left in the study drawer. Inside were deeds, notarized documents, and certified bank records proving Michael had purchased Crestwood legally from his father years ago. The officer studied the paperwork carefully. The brothers grew restless. Marcus tried to interrupt, but Officer Davis raised a hand. These documents appear valid and binding until a civil court rules otherwise. Mrs. Sterling has every right to remain on this property without interference. Marcus's face turned red. This is absurd. That woman has no right. I looked directly at him. That woman was Michael's wife for 17 years, and I have every right. The officer handed the folder back to me and nodded. Ma'am, you are secure for now. Any further disputes will have to go through the courts. The brothers had no choice but to leave. Though Marcus promised, this is far from over. Their black SUV disappeared down the driveway, but I knew they would return. When silence returned to Crestwood, I locked the door and collapsed into the nearest chair. The laptop still glowed on the table. Waiting. I pressed play. Michael appeared again, this time sitting in the library. His smile softened my fear. Good job, Anna. If you are still here, it means you faced them. I knew you would. You always had more strength than you realized. Tomorrow, I will show you something else. Something I created just for you. I closed the laptop, tears stinging my eyes. For the first time since his death, I felt Michael beside me, not as a memory, but as a guide. That night I barely slept. Every creak of the house made me alert. The shadows of the trees outside felt like watchful eyes. I replayed Michael's words in my head. He had foreseen all of this. He had prepared for everything. At dawn, I forced myself to explore the property further. I walked through the great room. The kitchen, the halls filled with light. Everywhere I saw his touch, his care, his secret devotion. Then I reached the conservatory. When I opened the glass doors, My breath caught in my throat. Orchids filled the space, more than I had ever seen in one place. Rare species bloomed in delicate colors. Some were varieties I had only seen in books, and in the center, on a raised pedestal, stood a rare blue orchid, glowing like a jewel. "Good morning, Mrs. Sterling," a voice said softly behind me. I turned quickly. A woman in her 50s stood among the flowers, holding a watering can. She had kind eyes and work-worn hands. "Who are you?" I asked cautiously. "My name is Ms. Jackson. Your husband hired me to care for the orchids. He spoke of you often." She smiled gently. "He said you had a special touch with plants." Emotion filled my chest. "Did you know him well?" "As well as he allowed anyone actor say." She replied, "He was here every month for the past 4 years. He built this place with you in mind." Her words struck me like a chord. Michael had hidden his illness, but he had not wasted his last years. He had spent them creating a sanctuary for me. Ms. Jackson adjusted a flower pot and continued. "He said this orchid reminded him of one you admired years ago at an exhibition. He wanted you to have it." Tears blurred my vision. Michael had remembered a passing comment I had made a decade earlier. He had turned it into something lasting. I stood in the conservatory, surrounded by the legacy of his love, and realized the truth. The battle for Crestwood was only beginning that relitera than is blank. But so was my journey of discovering the man I thought I already knew. The morning sunlight streamed through the conservatory glass, casting golden patterns across the orchids. Ms. Jackson moved quietly among the plants, trimming a leaf here, watering a pot there, as if she had been doing it her whole life. I stood in the center, feeling both awe and confusion. "Did Michael ever mention his brothers to you?" I asked her, my voice still unsteady. Her eyes darkened slightly. "Yes, he did not speak of them often, but when he did, it was always with caution. They had a history of treating him poorly. He told me they would not care about this place until money was involved. And now the resort project has changed everything." I nodded, my heart heavy. "They were here yesterday, already trying to force me out. They even contacted my daughter." Ms. Jackson frowned. "Emily." "Yes. They called her at college. They are trying to make her believe they have a rightful claim to Crestwood." "Then you must be careful," she warned. "Grief makes young people vulnerable. They will use her if they can." I placed a hand on the glass table beside me, steadying myself. Michael had been right in every detail. His brothers were circling like vultures, waiting for weakness. But I was not going to give them the satisfaction. I returned to the house and opened the laptop. The next video was waiting. Michael sat in the study, surrounded by shelves I had not yet explored. His expression was serious but warm. "Good morning, Anna," he said. "By now you have met Ms. Jackson. I knew she would still be here, taking care of the orchids. She is someone you can trust. I hired her not only because of her skill but because she understands loyalty. She owes me nothing, yet she has chosen to stand by this estate. Treat her well, and she will stand by you too." My throat tightened. Michael had thought of everything. He leaned forward on the screen. "I want to show you something today. In the east wing there is a locked room. The key is in the top drawer of the nightstand in our bedroom. Please, Anna, go there now. I created this space for you." I paused the video and hurried to the bedroom. In the nightstand drawer, just as he described, lay a silver key engraved with an orchid design. My hands shook as I carried it down the hall to a door I had not opened before. The lock clicked easily. I pushed the door open and gasped. The room was an art studio. Sunlight poured through tall windows. Canvas, brushes, paints, and easels filled the space. The air smelled faintly of turpentine and possibility. My heart leapt. I had not painted in 15 years. Life and responsibility had pushed aside my passion for art. After Emily was born, I told myself I would return to it someday. But someday never came. Michael had remembered. He had built me a sanctuary not just of orchids but of colors and creation. I returned to the laptop, tears spilling down my cheeks. Michael smiled knowingly from the screen. "You sacrificed your art for us. Anna, I never forgot that. I wanted to give it back to you. In the cabinet beneath the window bench, you will find something special." I hurried to the bench and pulled open the cabinet. Inside was a large flat box, With trembling hands, I opened it. My own painting stared back at me. Pieces from college I had believed were lost forever. A self-portrait. A still life of flowers. A landscape of the hills where Michael and I once walked. I pressed a hand over my mouth. Overcome. He had kept them all. Preserved them for this moment. On top was a small canvas of my graduation project. A young woman looking toward the horizon. Eyes bright with possibility. Attached to it was a note in Michael's handwriting. She is still inside you. Anna, I gave you the space. The rest is up to you. I sank to the floor, clutching the note, my heart splitting between grief and gratitude. A sudden vibration in my pocket pulled me back. My phone lit up with a message from Emily. I'm on my way. Mom, Uncle Marcus said we should all meet together to settle things. I want to hear his side. Please don't be upset. Panic seized me. They had convinced her already. My daughter was walking straight into their trap. I hurried back to the conservatory, where Ms. Locke's time, the Sanan, Jackson was adjusting the irrigation system. They are getting to her, I said, my voice trembling. Emily is on her way here with them. Ms. Jackson's eyes narrowed. Then you must be ready. Remember what your husband said. He prepared you for this moment. He swallowed hard. Michael had left me more than letters and videos. He had left me strength. But I was terrified. Could I protect both my daughter and his legacy? Within the hour, I heard engines on the gravel driveway again. I looked out from the studio window and saw 2 SUVs. One was black, belonging to the brothers. The other was silver. Emily stepped out, her long dark hair catching the sun, her face determined but uncertain. My heart broke and swelled at the same time. She was so much like Michael. She walked toward the porch with Marcus beside her, his hand lightly guiding her, as though he had known her all his life. My daughter, my flesh and blood, was already under their influence. I whispered to myself, Michael, guide me now. Then I straightened my shoulders, wiped my tears, and prepared to face the battle that had just become personal. The moment Emily stepped out of the silver SUV, my breath caught. She looked so confident, walking beside Marcus as if she had known him her entire life. Her smile was polite, her posture strong, but I could see the unease in her eyes. My daughter had always worn her emotions close to the surface, and though she was trying to appear composed, I recognized the flicker of uncertainty. I opened the front door before they could knock. Emily rushed to hug me, her embrace warm but quick, almost distracted. Mom, this place is incredible. Why didn't Dad ever tell us about it? Before I could answer, Marcus stepped forward, his expression carefully measured. Anna, we came to make peace. There has been too much tension already. This property should unite us, not divide us. Elijah and Isaiah stood slightly behind him, one holding a folder, the other watching silently, his face unreadable. Their presence filled the porch like a storm cloud. I led them into the great room. Though every step felt like a concession, Emily's eyes lit up as she looked at the paintings of orchids on the walls. Dad made all this for you, she whispered. Yes, I said softly. For us. Marcus placed a hand gently on Emily's shoulder. And for the family? He added quickly. His tone was smooth, but his eyes betrayed calculation. Your father never wanted to cut us out. We were all raised here. This house was always meant to be shared. I felt my patience tighten. Michael bought this property from your father years ago. He restored it with his own resources. It is not yours. Elijah opened his folder, pulling out documents. We have prepared a settlement offer. 1/3 for you, 1/3 for Emily, and 1/3 for the Sterling brothers. That way everyone benefits. It is the fair solution. Emily glanced at me, her brow furrowed. Mom, it makes sense. We don't need this huge house. We could sell and still walk away with more than enough. Her words pierced me. I realized how deeply they had already influenced her. She was speaking their language, repeating their reasoning. I looked directly into her eyes. Emily, your father left this house to me. Not to them. He knew what he was doing. Marcus shook his head sadly. Anna, grief can cloud judgment. Michael was ill. He was not thinking clearly. We all know how much he struggled in those final years. My anger surged. He was perfectly lucid until the day he died. Do not insult his memory by pretending otherwise. Emily raised her hands as if to calm us. Please, both of you. I just want us to talk about this like a family. Ms. Jackson entered from the conservatory, holding her watering can. Her presence seemed to unsettle the brothers. Marcus frowned. This is a private matter. Why is she here? She works for me, I said firmly, and she is welcome in my home. Isaiah spoke for the first time, his voice keener but sharp. Her employment is part of the estate. That is for the courts to decide. Ms. Jackson ignored him, her gaze steady on me. Mr. Michael trusted you. Mrs. Sterling. Remember that. I drew strength from her words. I will not be pressured in my own home, I said, facing the brothers. You will leave now. Emily's eyes widened. Mom, don't you think you should at least consider their offer? I softened my tone. I will consider nothing without my attorney present. And I will not be bullied. Marcus's charm cracked. His jaw tightened. His voice colder. You are making a mistake. This property is worth tens of millions. You cannot hold it alone against us. I held my ground. Watch me. For a moment, silence filled the room. The brothers exchanged glances. Then Marcus leaned close to Emily, lowering his voice, but not enough that I could not hear. We will talk later. You know we only want what is fair. Emily looked torn, glancing between us. She kissed my cheek quickly. I think I'll go with them for now. We need to keep talking. Mom, please think about this. The three brothers led her out to the SUV. I stood in the doorway, watching as my daughter climbed inside with them. My chest ached as the cars rolled down the driveway. When the sound of engines faded, I closed the door and leaned against it, fighting tears. Ms. Jackson stood quietly beside me. They will use her, she said softly. I know, I whispered, and that terrifies me. We sat together in the kitchen, the silence heavy. Finally, Ms. Jackson spoke again. There is something you should see. Something your husband asked me to keep hidden unless it became necessary. My pulse quickened. What is it? She rose and led me across the lawn to an old shed near the back of the property. Unlike the rest of the estate, it looked untouched, weathered by time. Ms. Jackson produced a key and unlocked the door. Inside, the air smelled of dust and wood. At first it seemed ordinary, filled with tools and gardening supplies. Then she pushed aside a stack of boxes and revealed a trapdoor recessed into the floor. Your husband called this the vault, she explained. He built it after your brothers-in-law started snooping around last year. Please, go down. My hands trembled as I climbed the ladder into the darkness. Ms. Jackson followed, flipping on a switch. Light filled a tunnel that stretched into a concrete chamber. My breath caught. The walls were lined with filing cabinets. Maps and documents covered a large table. Computers hummed quietly. What is this place? I asked in awe. This, Ms. Jackson said, her voice almost reverent, is where your husband prepared for war. I stepped closer to the table, scanning maps marked with red lines and handwritten notes. I saw diagrams of the resort expansion, property valuations, even financial records connected to the Sterling brothers. Ms. Jackson opened a drawer and pulled out a thick folder. Inside were documents, emails, and sworn statements. He knew they would try to take everything. He gathered evidence, enough to ruin them if they pressed too hard. I stared at the files, the magnitude of Michael's foresight overwhelming me. He had known this day would come. He had prepared every weapon I would need, and now it was up to me to use them. I stood in the underground chamber, my breath caught between disbelief and wonder. The room was larger than I expected, lined with filing cabinets, boxes, and a long table covered in neatly arranged documents. Maps of the Lake Arrowhead area hung on the walls, some marked with red circles and handwritten notes. A low hum came from the corner, where a small server unit blinked with green lights. This is extraordinary, I whispered. Ms. Jackson nodded. Your husband called it the vault. I call it his war room. He wanted you to be ready. He knew his brothers would not hesitate to use every weapon at their disposal. I walked slowly around the table, tracing my fingers over the maps. One showed the Crestwood estate outlined in bold, with neighboring parcels shaded in different colors. Some were marked with the initials SR, Summit Resorts. I murmured, exactly. Ms. Jackson confirmed. They bought up nearly every property surrounding Crestwood, all except this one, Without Crestwood, they cannot complete the expansion they are hiding from the public. I turned to her. Expansion. She pulled out a folder from the cabinet and handed it to me. Inside were blueprints, survey data, and internal memos. Your husband discovered that the resort project is 3 times larger than what they announced. Phase 2 requires this land. Without it, their profit projections collapse. I scanned the documents, my mind racing. So this property is worth far more than anyone realizes. Exponentially more, she said firmly. The thought of Michael keeping all this secret both hurt and amazed me. He had spent his final years not only building a sanctuary for me, but also crafting a shield against the people who would try to tear it away. I turned back to the wall of cabinets. What about these? Ms. Jackson opened another drawer and pulled out a stack of files. Evidence. He collected records on each of his brothers. Financial misconduct, fraudulent business deals, even sworn testimony from former employees. He said if they ever pushed too far, this would be the leverage to stop them. My fingers trembled as I flipped through the pages. Bank transfers, tax records, contracts signed under false pretenses. The evidence was overwhelming. He was preparing for them. I said softly, "Yes," she replied, "but he was also preparing for you. He believed you would be strong enough to face them if he could not." I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to steady the storm of emotions inside me. Love, grief, anger, and fear all battled for dominance. "Ms. Jackson placed a reassuring hand on my arm. "You have everything you need here. But there is one thing your husband could not prepare for. Emily." The mention of my daughter's name cut deeper than any of the documents. I closed the folder and looked at her. They are trying to win her trust. They already convinced her to come with them once. How do I protect her? "You tell her the truth, Ms. Jackson said simply. "Not just about the property, but about her father. She needs to hear his voice." Her words pierced me. Of course, the videos. Michael had not only left them for me, he had left them for Emily too. I returned to the house with the weight of the vault heavy on my shoulders. Upstairs, in the quiet of the study, I opened the laptop again. The next video loaded, Michael's face filling the screen. "My love," he began. "If you have reached this point, then you have found the vault. Good. That means you are ready to face the truth. Crestwood is more than a house. It is leverage. It is power. Summit Resorts needs it, and my brothers will stop at nothing to get it. But you have everything you need to fight them. Do not be afraid to use it." He paused, his eyes softening. "And Anna, when the time comes, show Emily these videos. She deserves to know the truth. She will be angry with me. She may even feel betrayed. But she must understand why I did what I did. She must understand who her uncles truly are." Tears blurred my vision as his face faded. That night I could not sleep. Every creak of the house reminded me of the pressure closing in from all sides. My daughter's trust was slipping. My brothers-in-law were circling like wolves, and the developer's shadow loomed in the distance. At dawn, I sat on the porch, staring out at the gardens Michael had rebuilt. I whispered to the morning air, "I will not let them destroy this. I will not let them take Emily from me." Later that day, my phone rang. Emily's voice was tight with irritation. "Mom, why are you fighting them? Uncle Marcus says this could be easy. We could all profit. Why are you making it so complicated?" I closed my eyes. "Because it is not just about money, Emily. It is about what your father wanted. He bought this place for us. He poured his last years into it." She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I want to see his videos. Uncle Marcus told me Dad was confused in the end. If that is true, then I need proof he was not." Her words struck like a blade, but they also opened the door I needed. "Come tomorrow," I told her. "Come alone. I will show you everything." When I hung up, my hands were trembling, but my heart was steady. The battle was no longer just about land or money. It was about the truth. And the truth, preserved in Michael's own voice, would be the only thing that could save my daughter from their grip. As I prepared the study for Emily's visit, I glanced once more at the vault key in my pocket. Michael had built me a fortress of evidence, a war chest of secrets, and the gift of his voice to guide me. I whispered again to the empty room, "Michael, I will not fail you." The next morning I woke before dawn. I moved through the house in silence, preparing the study for Emily's visit. I opened the laptop and cued the video Michael had recorded, specifically for her. I placed tissues on the desk. A small gesture. But I knew my daughter well. She would need them. By mid-morning, I heard a car on the gravel driveway. My pulse quickened as Emily's silver SUV pulled up. She stepped out with hesitant determination, her face a mix of defiance and vulnerability. I opened the door before she could knock. "Come in," I said softly. She brushed past me, looking around with wide eyes. "I still can't believe this place. It feels like Dad built a whole other life we never knew about." Her words stung, but I kept my voice calm. "He built this for us. Emily, for you and me." She folded her arms. "Uncle Marcus says Dad wasn't thinking clearly when he bought it. He said it was reckless." I led her to the study. "Sit down. It's time you hear from your father himself." She frowned, suspicion in her eyes, but curiosity kept her seated. I pressed play on the video. Michael appeared on the screen, his smile warm, his eyes alive. "Hello, my brilliant girl," he began. "If you are watching this, it means I'm gone. And it also means your mother trusted you enough to show you the truth." Emily stiffened, her eyes glued to the screen. Michael continued, "I need you to know something. I was diagnosed 3 years ago with a cerebral aneurysm. The doctors gave me only a few years. I chose not to tell you or your mother. I wanted our final time together to feel normal. I hope you can forgive me." Emily's lips parted, her breath quickening. "He was sick," she whispered. Michael leaned closer on the screen. "There is something else you need to know about my brothers. When I was in college, they forged my name on inheritance documents. They stole my share and threatened to implicate me if I fought back. That is why I left home. That is why I built a life away from them. If they come to you now, remember this. They are not looking out for you. They are looking out for themselves." Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks. She covered her mouth, shaking her head. "Oh my God." Michael's voice softened. "Emily, you are stronger and smarter than they will ever give you credit for. Do not let them use you. Stand with your mother. She is braver than she knows. Trust her." The video ended, freezing on his kind smile. Emily sat in silence, her body trembling. Finally she turned to me, her voice breaking. "They lied to me. Uncle Marcus told me Dad was confused, that he didn't understand what he was doing." I reached across the desk and took her hand. "Your father was clear. Emily, he left this house to me. He created it for us. He wanted you to know the truth." Her tears hardened into anger. "They used me. They made me believe I was helping Dad's memory when really they just wanted money." I pulled her into an embrace, holding her as she cried. For the first time since Michael's death, I felt our bond strengthen instead of strain. But the moment did not last. Tires crunched outside again. Emily stiffened. I glanced through the window and saw the black SUV pulling up. Marcus, Elijah, and Isaiah stepped out, their expressions determined. Emily wiped her face quickly. They followed me. I straightened my shoulders. "Let them come. It is time to end this charade." The pounding on the door was immediate. Marcus' voice rung out. "Anna, we need to speak with you and Emily. Now." I opened the door. "Mais posture calme. You can come in, but you will listen." They entered, filling the great room with their presence. Marcus turned to Emily with a practiced smile. "We were worried about you. I'm glad you are here with us." Emily stepped back, her voice sharp. "Stop pretending you care. I know what you did to Dad." I saw his video. The smile slipped from Marcus's face. Elijah cleared his throat. "Videos can be manipulated. Your father was not well. He was." "Enough," I interrupted firmly. Michael was lucid. He documented everything. And he left evidence. "You are finished." Their eyes narrowed. Isaiah shifted uncomfortably, but Marcus's fury boiled over. "You think you can stand against us with a few recordings and old papers? You have no idea who you are dealing with." I met his glare without flinching. "I know exactly who I am dealing with. And I know my husband better than any of you ever did. He built this place not only as a gift but as a fortress. He prepared for this moment." Emily stepped beside me, her voice steady. "And you will not manipulate me again. This house is not yours. It never was." The brothers exchanged glances, their confidence shaken. I could see cracks in their unity. Elijah muttered something under his breath. and Isaiah shifted toward the door, as if already considering retreat. I took a deep breath. The weight of Michael's war room and the evidence he had gathered steady in my mind. Leave this property. If you continue to press your false claims, I will release everything your brother collected. Every fraud, every theft, every crime. Do you really want the world to know? For a moment, silence filled the house. Marcus clenched his fists, his face red with rage, but he said nothing. Elijah closed his folder slowly. This is not over, he muttered. On the contrary, I replied. It is. They turned and walked out, their footsteps heavy, their pride wounded. The SUV roared to life and disappeared down the driveway. Emily exhaled shakily and looked at me. Mom, they are not going to stop. I placed a hand on her shoulder. No, they will not. But neither will we. As we stood together in the house Michael had built, I felt something new rising inside me. Strength, resolve, and the certainty that my husband's faith in me had not been misplaced. The silence after the SUV disappeared was heavy, but it was no longer filled with fear. For the first time, Emily stood firmly at my side, her eyes clear, her loyalty no longer divided. We stood in the great room surrounded by orchids and paintings, both of us breathing as though we had just survived a storm. Mom, Emily said softly, we need to take this to court before they try something worse. I nodded. We will, and we have everything we need. That afternoon, I returned to the vault with Emily. She looked around the underground chamber in awe. Dad built this. Yes, I said. Every file, every map, every document was collected by him. He knew this battle was coming. Emily touched the folders stacked on the table. It feels like he is still protecting us. I opened one of the cabinets and pulled out a thick binder labeled Sterling Brothers. Look at this, I told her. Inside were records of tax evasion, fraudulent loan applications, and contracts signed under false identities. Michael had gathered affidavits from people the brothers had cheated, even signed statements from former employees. Emily flipped through the pages, her eyes widening. This is enough to destroy them. It is? I agreed. But we have to be smart. If we go public too quickly, they will spin it as lies. We need an attorney who will handle this carefully. She nodded. Then let's find one we can trust. I called Mr. Harrison, the family attorney, and arranged a meeting. When he arrived at Crestwood the next morning, he walked into the study with cautious eyes. Anna, I knew your husband was careful, but I did not realize he was this prepared. I spread the evidence across the table. Michael gave me all of this. He said it would be my shield. Can we use it? Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses as he reviewed the documents. Yes. With this much proof, we can file an injunction to block any claims against the property. And if necessary, we can press criminal charges against the brothers. But Anna, you need to know that once we act, the fight will escalate. Summit Resorts will not stand idle either. They have billions at stake. Emily frowned. Do they know how much they need this land? Mr. Harrison Sahil. Yes. And if they are desperate enough, they might try to buy influence in court. We must anticipate every angle. I leaned back in my chair, steadying my breath. Then we will not just defend, we will go on the offensive. Michael wanted us to be ready. He gave us everything we need to win. Mr. Harrison gave a rare smile. That sounds like your husband. Always one step ahead. After he left, Emily and I spent hours in the vault, organizing the files, labeling them, and scanning digital copies onto secure drives. It felt like preparing for battle, and in many ways, it was. That night, Emily sat beside me on the porch, staring out at the lake shimmering under the moonlight. I still can't believe Dad kept this from us, she said quietly, but at the same time, I understand. He wanted to protect us. I put my arm around her shoulders. He knew you would be strong enough to handle the truth when the time came, and he was right. She rested her head against me. I'm sorry I doubted you. Mom. I kissed the top of her hair. You are my daughter. That is all that matters. The next morning, Ms. Jackson joined us in the conservatory. She listened as we explained our plan. Her eyes glimmered with pride. Mr. Michael would be proud of you both. But remember, the brothers are desperate. Desperate men do foolish things. Her warning proved true sooner than expected. That afternoon, a letter arrived, delivered by courier. It bore the official seal of Summit Resorts. Inside was an offer. They wanted to buy Crestwood immediately for $40 million, paid in full. Emily's jaw dropped. $40 million. I read the letter carefully. It is a bribe disguised as a business deal. If we sell, we give them everything they want. And your father's sacrifice becomes meaningless. Emily looked at me, her eyes steady. Then we do not sell. I burned the letter in the fireplace, watching the flames consume it. The smoke curled upward like a silent promise. That evening, I opened the laptop again. Michael's face appeared, end quote. His voice calm and steady. Anna, if you have reached this point, you are facing choices that will test your strength. Summit Resorts will come to you with money, with threats, with lies. Remember, this house is not for sale. It is your inheritance of love, not profit. Stand firm. His words were exactly what I needed. Later that night, Emily asked me, what if we lose? What if the courts take it away anyway? I held her hand. Then we will know we fought with everything your father gave us. But we are not going to lose. He believed in us. Now we believe in each other. She squeezed my hand. Her eyes filled with determination. For the first time since Michael's death, I felt like we were not just surviving. We were moving forward. Together, with purpose. As the moon rose higher over Crestwood, I whispered a promise into the night air. Michael, we are ready. We will protect what you built. We will not let them win. The day after we burned the offer from Summit Resorts, I woke with a sense of unease that I could not shake. The air around Crestwood felt different, heavier, as if the house itself was bracing for what was to come. Emily sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. Mom, look at this. She handed me the screen. It was an online article from a local business journal. The headline read, Dispute over Crestwood Estate. Could delay Summit Resorts expansion. Beneath it were quotes from Marcus, claiming that my husband had been unstable, that I was clinging to property that rightfully belonged to the Sterling family, and that Emily would soon see reason. My chest tightened. They are poisoning the narrative before we even reach court. Emily's jaw clenched. He is lying about Dad. He is lying about you. We cannot let this stand. I took a deep breath. Then we fight fire with truth. We release what your father collected. Not everything yet, but enough to show the world who they are. That afternoon, Mr. Harrison joined us in the vault. Together we chose a small but damaging set of documents, evidence of Marcus's fraudulent loan scheme from 5 years ago. End of note, Brass Place. With Mr. Harrison's help, we leaked it to an investigative journalist who owed him a favor. By evening, the story had shifted. Headlines now questioned Marcus's credibility, and whispers of financial misconduct began to spread. It was a small victory, but it lit a fire in me. For the first time, the brothers were on the defensive. That night, as Emily and I prepared for bed, a sudden noise echoed from outside. The crunch of tires on gravel, the faint hum of engines. I peeked through the upstairs window. 2 unfamiliar black cars sat idling near the gate. Who is that? Emily whispered. My stomach dropped. Not the brothers. Summit Resorts. The following morning confirmed my fears. A formal notice arrived from their lawyers, demanding immediate negotiations. They accused me of obstructing economic development and hinted at the possibility of eminent domain. Emily read the letter, her face pale. Can they really take the land? Mom, not if we prove corruption, I said, though my own voice wavered with doubt. Later that afternoon, we heard another knock at the door. This time it was not Marcus, or Elijah, or Isaiah. A man in a tailored gray suit stood there, calm and composed. He introduced himself as Richard Cole, Vice President of Summit Resorts. Mrs. Sterling, he said smoothly, I thought it best we meet face to face. You are a reasonable woman. Let us find a reasonable solution. I allowed him inside, though every instinct screamed against it. Emily hovered close, watching him like a hawk. Richard's smile was thin, professional. Your husband was a brilliant man, but emotional near the end. Crestwood is critical to the resort expansion. We are prepared to increase our offer to $50 million. That money could change your life, your daughter's life, your grandchildren's lives. I looked him straight in the eye. This property is not for sale. His smile did not falter, but his eyes hardened. Mrs. Sterling, if you resist, you will find yourself buried in legal battles that could last years. Courts are slow, developers are patient, and patience is something you may not have the luxury of. Emily stepped forward, her voice steady. Are you threatening us? Richard adjusted his cufflinks. I am offering you freedom from years of conflict. But if you prefer conflict, we are prepared for that too. I rose from my chair. Every ounce of grief turned into steel. My husband gave his last years to build this place. He poured his love into every wall, every flower, every detail. I will not trade that for any amount of money. You can leave now. Richard studied me for a long moment, then stood. Very well, but I warn you, Mrs. Sterling, sentiment is fragile. Money is not. He walked out without another word. The moment the door closed, Emily exhaled shakily. They are going to come after us harder now. Yes, I said, which means we prepare harder. That night, I returned to the vault alone. I sat at the long table, surrounded by Michael's maps and documents. I whispered into the silence. You knew this would happen, didn't you? You knew they would come for me. I opened the laptop again. Another video appeared. Michael looked more tired than in the previous recordings, but his voice was steady. Anna, if you are watching this, Summit has made their move. Do not give in. Use the evidence. Not just against my brothers, but against Summit too. They are not clean. Dig deeper. You will find what I found. And when you do, the entire project will collapse. His words gave me chills. He had not only anticipated his brothers, he had anticipated the corporation itself. The next morning, Emily and I searched through the vault's files with renewed urgency. Buried in one of the cabinets, we discovered a folder marked Summit. Inside were contracts, leaked memos, and anonymous letters. They revealed secret deals with county officials, bribes to zoning boards, and false environmental reports. Emily looked up at me, her eyes blazing. Mom, this is it. If we release this, the whole resort project could fall apart. I held the folder tightly, my heart racing. Then that is exactly what we will do. But before I could finish the thought, the sound of shattering glass rang out from the conservatory. Emily screamed. We ran toward the noise, and my blood froze. A brick lay among the orchids, a note tied to it with black string. Emily picked it up with trembling hands. The note read, "Sell the property, or you will regret it." I pulled her close, my body shaking. The war had moved from threats and papers to violence, and I knew in that moment that we were in far more danger than I had realized. The brick lay among the shattered orchids like a scar across Michael's dream. I stared at it, my hands trembling, while Emily clutched the threatening note. Her face was pale, her breath uneven. They broke into our sanctuary, she whispered. Dad built this place with love, and now they are destroying it. I took the note from her and read it again. Sell the property, or you will regret it. The words were simple but laced with menace. This is no longer just about money, I said quietly. This is intimidation, and if they are willing to escalate this far, they will not stop. Emily's voice hardened. Then we cannot stop either. We have to fight back. That morning, I called the sheriff's office. Officer Davis, the same man who had come weeks earlier, arrived to inspect the damage. He examined the broken glass, the brick, the note. His expression was grim. This is serious, he said. We will open a criminal investigation. But you should be careful. Whoever did this wanted to send a message. I suggest installing cameras and an alarm system immediately. I nodded, though fear gnawed at my chest. Do you think it was my husband's brothers? He hesitated. Hard to say. Could be them. Could be someone connected to the developer. But either way, you are dealing with people who think they are above the law. Be vigilant. After he left, Emily and I spent hours cleaning the conservatory. The sight of crushed orchids broke my heart, but I refused to let despair win. Michael had built this as a place of beauty and resilience. I would not let a brick erase that. Later that evening, we returned to the vault. Emily slammed the note down on the table. We cannot just defend anymore. Mom, we need to hit them where it hurts. Dad left us everything we need. I pulled out the folder labeled, Summit. Inside were documents showing bribes to county officials and falsified environmental reports. If we release this, Summit Resorts would face more than public criticism. They would face federal investigation. But Mr. Lacked, Harrison's words echoed in my mind. Once we moved forward, the fight would escalate beyond anything we had yet faced. I opened the laptop, needing Michael's voice. His face appeared, weary but steady. Anna, if violence comes, you must not let it break you. The truth is your strongest weapon. Do not let fear silence you. They win only if you give up. I closed my eyes, letting his words sink deep. The next day, Emily and I drove into town to meet Mr. Blank's lever, Harrison, at his office. The streets of Lake Arrowhead were quiet, lined with small shops and tourists sipping coffee, unaware of the war brewing around us. Mr. Harrison greeted us with a firm handshake. I read the sheriff's report. This changes things. If they are willing to threaten you, then we must act now. Do you have the evidence against Summit? I slid the folder across his desk. Michael collected this. It proves bribery and fraud. He scanned the papers, his brow furrowing deeper with each page. Finally, he looked up. This is explosive. With this, we can not only block Summit's project, but also push for a federal investigation. But Anna, if we file this, you will become their primary target. Are you ready for that? Emily gripped my hand. We are ready, she said before I could answer. Her voice was strong, determined. I squeezed her hand, my heart swelling with pride. Yes, I said, we are ready. Mr. Harrison nodded. Then I will prepare the filings, but I also suggest reaching out to allies, journalists, community leaders, environmental groups. Once the truth is public, it will be harder for them to silence you. That night, Emily and I drafted emails, attaching copies of the documents to trusted journalists. We contacted a local environmental coalition, knowing they would rally against Summit's destruction of protected land. As we worked, I felt a strange strength building inside me. For weeks I had been surviving, reacting, clinging to Michael's instructions. But now, for the first time, I was taking the offensive. Still, fear lingered. Every sound outside made me jump. Every shadow felt like a threat. Before going to bed, I whispered to Emily, "Lock every door. Set the alarm. Do not ignore anything." Around midnight, I woke to the sound of movement outside. My heart pounded as I grabbed a flashlight and crept toward the window. Two figures stood near the gate, their outlines barely visible in the moonlight. They were pulling something from the trunk of a car. I froze. My breath caught. Then the security light flicked on, and the figures bolted, sprinting back to the car before driving away into the night. The next morning, I found what they had left. A dead orchid plant, torn from its pot, placed at the center of the driveway. A silent warning. Emily stared at it, her jaw clenched. "They are trying to scare us. They are failing," I said, though my voice trembled. "They want us to feel powerless." But Michael did not raise us to be afraid. Later that day, the phone rang. It was Mr. Harrison. "Anna, prepare yourself. Tomorrow the injunction will be filed in court. Once it is, the brothers in Summit will know you are officially on the attack. You must be ready for their retaliation." I hung up the phone and looked at Emily. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time since Michael's death, I saw not just my daughter but my partner in this battle. I whispered, almost to myself, "Michael, we are doing it. We are fighting back, and we will not stop until justice is done." As night fell over Crestwood, I knew the war was far from over. But for the first time, I felt the fire of certainty. We were not just defending a house, we were defending a legacy. The courthouse in San Bernardino smelled faintly of old paper and polished wood. As Emily and I walked through the tall glass doors, my heart raced with the heavy beat of fear and determination colliding. This was no longer whispers in the conservatory or threats scribbled on paper. This was the stage where the fight for Crestwood would unfold. Mr. Harrison met us in the lobby. He was composed as always, his gray suit impeccable, his eyes steady. "Anna, Emily, remember, today is only the preliminary hearing. The court will decide whether Summit Resorts and your husband's brothers have any legitimate standing to contest your ownership. Our documents are strong. We have the law on our side. His reassurance helped, but my palms were still damp. Emily touched my arm and whispered, "We are ready. Mom, Dad prepared us for this." Inside the courtroom, the brothers sat at the opposite table. Marcus wore a tailored suit that screamed money and arrogance. Elijah flipped through his legal folder with theatrical precision, while Isaiah sat back, silent but watchful. Behind them, a row of polished Summit executives whispered in hushed tones, their faces carefully neutral. When the judge entered, the room quieted. She was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This hearing concerns the matter of the Crestwood estate," she announced. "We will hear arguments regarding the validity of ownership and any competing claims." Elijah rose first, his voice smooth and persuasive. "Your Honor, while we acknowledge that my late brother David signed papers transferring Crestwood to his wife, we contend that he was not of sound mind. He suffered from a medical condition, impairing his judgment. Furthermore, the property holds deep roots in the Sterling family, and dividing it equally among heirs is the only fair resolution." He gestured toward me with a dismissive wave, as though I were a fragile woman clinging to something she did not understand. Mouth clenched. "Mr. Harrison stood. His tone was calm but edged with steel. "Your Honor, we present notarized records, certified financial transfers, and sworn statements from contractors proving that David Sterling oversaw renovations in complete lucidity. We also submit medical evaluations from the year of purchase, confirming no impairment." He placed the blue folder on the judge's bench. "This property was lawfully purchased and legally deeded to his wife. Any claim otherwise is an attempt to exploit grief for financial gain." The judge studied the documents, an in her expression unreadable. Then she looked directly at Marcus and Elijah. "Do you have medical evidence to support your claim of incapacity?" Elijah shuffled papers but produced nothing conclusive. Marcus cleared his throat. "We believe further investigation is warranted. Surely the court can see the suspicious secrecy of my brother's actions." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Suspicion is not evidence. Mr. Sterling, this court deals in facts." For a moment, silence stretched across the room. I could feel Emily's hand tighten around mine under the table. Then the Summit lawyer stood, sleek and polished. "Your Honor, regardless of family disputes, our client Summit Resorts has extended multiple fair offers for the property. We believe Mrs. Intepterin Sterling should be compelled to consider these offers in light of the community benefits the resort will provide: jobs, tourism, economic growth." It was a clever argument, framed as generosity, but I could not stay silent. I rose to my feet. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge gestured for me to proceed. My voice trembled at first, but grew stronger with every word. "This property is not simply land. It is the culmination of my husband's final years. A sanctuary he built with his own hands while knowing his time was short. He entrusted it to me, not to his brothers, not to Summit Resorts. To me, because he believed I would protect it." I turned toward the Summit representatives. "You talk of community benefits, yet my husband uncovered evidence that your project involves falsified reports and illegal land acquisitions. He documented everything." The courtroom stirred with whispers. Summit's lawyer stiffened. The judge raised her hand for silence. "Mrs. Sterling, do you have proof of these allegations?" "Yes, Your Honor." I nodded to Mr. Harrison, who handed forward a thick file. "My husband compiled detailed records of bribery and fraud tied to this project. I am prepared to submit them to the court and, if necessary, to federal investigators." The Summit lawyer paled, his confident facade cracking. The judge scanned the first few pages, her brow furrowing. "These are serious allegations. I will review them thoroughly. For now, this evidence will be entered into the record." Marcus shot me a glare, his face tight with fury. Elijah leaned toward him, whispering frantically, while Isaiah looked away, his mask of indifference slipping. The judge closed the folder with finality. "Based on the evidence presented, I find no grounds to question David Sterling's capacity at the time of purchase. The Crestwood estate remains the sole property of Anna Sterling. Any future claims must present new, substantial evidence. Until then, this matter is settled." The gavel struck, and the sound echoed like a thunderclap of justice. Relief surged through me, tears stinging my eyes. Emily squeezed my hand, her smile bright with triumph. For the first time since Michael's death, I felt the weight of his foresight lifting me up instead of holding me down. As we left the courtroom, Marcus approached. His voice was low, his words sharp. "This is not over, Anna. You embarrassed us today. You have no idea who you are fighting." I met his glare without flinching. "I am fighting for my husband's legacy, and for that, Marcus, I will never back down." He clenched his jaw and stalked away, Elijah and Isaiah trailing after him. Outside on the courthouse steps, reporters swarmed. Questions flew about Summit, the family feud, the future of Crestwood. I held my head high, Emily at my side, and spoke clearly. "My husband left me this property not as a prize to be fought over, but as a legacy of love and vision. We will honor it. We will protect it. And no amount of intimidation will change that." Flashes lit up the air as cameras clicked. Somewhere in the chaos, I felt Michael's presence, steady and proud, whispering through the rush of voices. We climbed into the car, and Emily let out a breathless laugh. "Mom, we did it. We actually did it." I smiled, though my heart warned me this was only a battle, not the war. "Yes," I said softly, "but we must stay ready, because they will come again." As the car pulled away from the courthouse, I looked back at the building fading behind us. A place of justice. Yes, but also the beginning of a greater storm. And I knew, deep inside, that Michael's plan was still unfolding, guiding us into the battles yet to come. The morning after the court ruling, Crestwood Estate felt different. The sun poured through the conservatory glass, gilding every orchid with a light that seemed almost triumphant. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to breathe, yet the peace was fragile. Like a thin layer of glass over a storm, Emily walked into the kitchen with her laptop under her arm. Her eyes were wide with urgency. "Mom, you need to see this." She pulled up the news. Every headline blazed with our story. "Widow defeats Sterling heirs in court battle." Summit Resorts faces fraud allegations. The Crestwood Estate controversy deepens. Reporters replayed clips of me standing on the courthouse steps. My words, spoken in defense of Michael's legacy, were now being broadcast to the world. I had become a symbol of resistance against greed. "Look at the comments," Emily said. "Half the people are cheering for us, but the other half are calling us selfish. They say we're blocking jobs and progress." I scrolled through the comments. Some praised me as courageous. Others accused me of clinging to land that could benefit the entire community. And in between were venomous remarks clearly planted to sway opinion. "They are trying to turn public pressure against us," I said softly. Emily slammed the laptop shut. "Let them. We know the truth." But my chest tightened. Public opinion had power. Summit Resorts knew how to wield it. That afternoon, a black envelope arrived by courier. Inside was a glossy brochure from Summit Resorts, complete with renderings of the luxury hotel and golf course they planned to build. Scribbled across the images in red ink were the words, "This is the future you are denying your neighbors." Emily threw it in the trash, but the message lingered in my mind. They were trying to paint me as the villain. Later that night, while I was painting in the studio, my phone buzzed with a call from Mr. Prisonis Prioler. My phone buzzed with a call from Mr. Prisonis. Harrison. His voice was low. Urgent. "Anna, Summit is moving fast. They filed a countersuit this afternoon claiming your accusations are defamatory. They want to silence you before the investigation gains traction." My brush froze mid-stroke. "Can they do that?" "They can try. It is a common tactic. But the evidence you provided is strong. We just have to withstand the pressure. But you should be prepared. This will not just be a legal battle. It will be fought in the press, in the community, everywhere." After hanging up, I sat in silence. The canvas in front of me blurred through my tears. Michael had warned me of this. He had known they would attack from every angle. The next morning, I found protesters gathered at the gates. Some carried signs reading "Save our jobs and resort means progress." Others held hand-painted boards that said "Protect Crestwood and stand with the widow." The shouting created a storm of voices, half for me, half against. Cameras swiveled as I stepped onto the porch. A reporter shoved a microphone toward me. "Mrs. Sterling, do you feel guilty for standing in the way of development?" I drew a steady breath. "This is not about development. This is about corruption. Summit Resorts is welcome to build honestly, but they will not build on lies or stolen land." The crowd erupted, some cheering, others booing. Emily pulled me back inside, her face tight with worry. "Mom, you don't have to put yourself out there like this." "Yes, I do," I said. "Because if we let them control the story, we lose." That evening, I turned again to Michael's videos. His face appeared, calm and steady. "Anna, by now you may feel the weight of public opinion pressing down on you. Remember, perception is their weapon, but truth is yours. Speak it clearly, and even those who doubt you will eventually hear." His words steadied me. The following week was a blur of interviews, meetings, and late nights preparing evidence with Mr. P. Harrison. Each time Summit released a press statement attacking me, we countered with documents Michael had gathered. Slowly, journalists began to see the cracks in Summit's polished image. But the brothers were not done. One evening, Emily burst into the study, her face pale. "Mom, you have to see this." She played a clip from a local news station. Marcus stood before cameras, his voice heavy with false sincerity. "My late brother was ill. We loved him, but he was not himself in those final years. My niece is being manipulated. This so-called war is tearing our family apart. All we want is fairness." The reporter nodded sympathetically, as if Marcus were the victim. Emily shut the laptop with a snap. "He is twisting everything." I placed my hands on her shoulders. "Then we stay steady." Liz fell apart. Truth holds. But that night, alone in bed, fear crept back in. What if the lies spread faster than the truth? What if I lost Emily to their manipulations again? I dreamed of Michael, standing in the conservatory, orchids blooming around him. His eyes held that steady faith he always carried. "Anna," he whispered, "you are stronger than you think. Keep going." When I woke, I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I called a trusted journalist who had been quietly supportive. "I want to show you something," I said. "Something my husband left hidden. If the public needs the truth, then they will see it with their own eyes." I arranged to meet him at Crestwood. In the vault beneath the shed, I laid out the files, the maps, the sworn affidavits. The journalist's eyes widened as he scanned the evidence. "This," he said slowly, "is more than a story. This could bring down Summit Resorts." "Then tell it," I replied. As he left with copies of the files, Emily stood beside me, her chin lifted high. "Dad would be proud," she whispered. I looked around at the orchids glowing in the morning light, at the house Michael had rebuilt with his own hands. "He prepared us for this," I said. "Now, it is our turn to finish it." Outside, the protesters were louder than ever, but I no longer flinched. Let them shout. Let Summit smear my name. We had the truth, and the truth was stronger than fear. The article hit the newsstands on a Sunday morning. By noon, it was everywhere. Headlines blazed across television screens, phones, and newspapers. Summit Resorts exposed. Fraud, bribery, and the fight for Crestwood. The journalist I had met in the vault had done his work well. Every detail Michael had collected was there, backed by documents and testimony. The story spread like fire. Reporters replayed footage of Marcus at the courthouse, juxtaposed with evidence of forged signatures, fraudulent filings, and suspicious wire transfers. Emily and I sat in the living room, the TV flickering with updates. She leaned forward, her eyes wide. "Mom, look at this." They are showing Dad's notes. His actual handwriting. People are realizing he was telling the truth all along. I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. Your father wanted this moment. He wanted the truth to speak louder than lies. But not everyone was celebrating. By afternoon, the gates of Crestwood were swarmed with cameras, microphones, and angry voices. Some protesters had returned, shouting that I was destroying jobs and prosperity. Others cheered, chanting my name, calling me a hero for standing against corruption. The chaos outside was deafening. Emily turned to me, her voice low. "This is bigger than us now. Mom, Summit is collapsing, but the brothers, they are not finished. I can feel it." She was right. That evening, as the sun dipped low, 3 black SUVs rolled up the drive. Marcus, Elia, and Isaiah stepped out, their faces hard with desperation. Behind them came a lawyer I had not seen before, carrying a thick folder. Emily stiffened beside me. "What do they want now?" I took a deep breath. To save themselves, they knocked once, then entered without waiting for an answer. Marcus spoke first, his tone sharp. "Anna, this has gone far enough. You have dragged our family name through the mud. You have no idea what you are unleashing." I met his glare calmly. What I unleashed was the truth. And it was your choices, not mine, that stained your name. Elijah set the folder on the table. We came to make a final offer. Sign over partial rights to Crestwood. And in exchange, we will drop any claims. We will also support you publicly against Summit the Black de Variant against Summit the Black de Bruel. Together, we can turn this into a united front. Emily laughed bitterly. Now you want to play family. After trying to destroy us, Isaiah, quieter than the others, looked at me with weary eyes. "Anna, if Summit falls, so do we. They invested heavily in our firm. If they collapse, we collapse. This is not just about the house anymore. It is survival." For the first time, I saw fear in his face, not arrogance. But fear was not reason enough for me to yield. I shook my head. "Michael left this property to me, not as a bargaining chip, but as a legacy. You had years to build something honest. Instead, you built your empire on lies. I will not give you a piece of what my husband created just because you are falling." Marcus slammed his fist on the table. "You are condemning us." "No," I said firmly. "You condemned yourselves long ago." The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, Elijah gathered the folder, his jaw tight. "Then we are finished here." They left as abruptly as they had come. Emily turned to me, our voice trembling. "Do you think they will stop?" "No," I admitted. "But they are cornered now. Desperation makes people reckless. We need to be ready." 2 days later, the news broke. Federal investigators had launched an inquiry into Summit Resorts, and subpoenas were being issued to the Sterling brothers. Their investment firm was under scrutiny for laundering Summit's illicit funds. The empire they had boasted about for years was beginning to crumble. That night, Emily and I sat together on the porch. The stars glittered above, and the estate was quiet, the orchids glowing softly in the conservatory. Dad knew this was coming. Emily whispered, "He built all of this not just for beauty, but as armor. He gave us the tools to fight." I looked at her, my daughter who had been so easily swayed by her uncles weeks ago, now sitting strong, her eyes lit with determination. "Yes," I said softly, "and he gave us each other." She rested her head on my shoulder. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not because the fight was over, but because I finally believed we could win. Before bed, I returned to Michael's laptop. Only a handful of videos remained. I opened the one marked Day 90. Michael's face appeared, weary but gentle. "Anna, by now the truth is out. I know you are standing taller than you thought possible. I never doubted you. I never doubted Emily. Crestwood was my way of saying I believe in you both. My brothers will fall on their own weight. Summit will collapse under its corruption. But you will rise." I pressed my hand to the screen, tears filling my eyes. "I hope you are right. My love," I whispered. The next morning, Emily came running into the kitchen with her phone. "Mom, look. Summit's stock crashed overnight. Their CEO resigned. The board is scrambling." I read the headline and felt a swell of relief. One battle was ending. But then Emily's expression darkened. "There is one more thing. Marcus was arrested last night. Fraud charges." I sat down heavily. The final collapse of the Sterling Empire had begun. Emily placed her hand over mine. "Does this mean it's over?" I looked out the window at Crestwood, at the orchids glowing in the morning sun, at the art studio where my brushes waited. Maybe not completely, but the worst is behind us, and whatever comes, we face it together. She smiled, and for the first time, her smile looked free. As the sun rose higher, I felt Michael's presence again, not as a ghost, but as a quiet strength woven into every corner of this estate. The fight for Crestwood was not just about a house, or land, or even justice. It was about love, legacy, and the courage to hold on when the world tried to break us. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that we were ready for whatever came next. It has been a year since the storm broke. A year since the world discovered the truth about Summit Resorts and the Sterling brothers. Life has settled into a new rhythm. One built not on fear and secrecy, but on honesty and growth. Crestwood is no longer just a house to me. It has become a living testament to resilience. The orchids in the conservatory bloom brighter than ever, and visitors now come from across the state to admire them. We open the gardens 3 times a month to local schools and community groups. Children wander between the rows of blossoms, eyes wide with wonder, and in their laughter I feel Michael's presence. He always believed beauty should be shared, not hidden. Emily has grown more than I thought possible. She graduated from college in the spring and surprised me by turning down several lucrative offers from firms her uncles once admired. Instead, she chose to stay at Crestwood for now, helping me manage the estate and guiding the small foundation we started in Michael's name. The Whitman Foundation funds scholarships for young artists and horticulture students, inspired by both the orchids and the art studio. Emily says this work connects her to her father in a way nothing else could. I see her walking through the conservatory, clipboard in hand, giving instructions with confidence. And I know Michael would be proud. The Sterling brothers' story ended as expected. Marcus never lived to see his trial. His illness advanced quickly, and he passed away quietly in a hospice. Elijah and Isaiah faced federal charges. They made their pleas, served their time, and their empire was dismantled piece by piece. I do not rejoice in their downfall, but I do feel peace knowing they can no longer hurt anyone the way they once hurt Michael. As for me, I have returned to painting. The great canvas Michael left me, the one he said should wait until I was ready, now hangs complete in the heart of Crestwood's great room. It is a blend of past and present, the house as it stands today, the ghosts of what it once was, and a garden of orchids stretching into an endless horizon. At the center are 3 figures, a man offering a flower, a woman accepting it, and a younger woman standing between them, holding both their hands. Visitors tell me it feels alive, as if the painting itself breathes. To me, it is not just art, but a reminder that love and legacy can exist beyond death. At night, when the estate grows quiet, I sometimes sit on the porch with Emily. We talk about the future, her dreams of travel, my plans to expand the foundation, the possibility of opening Crestwood as a retreat for artists and writers. Each plan feels like a continuation of what Michael began. He left us more than security. He left us freedom. He left us hope. I once feared that discovering Michael's secrets would leave me broken. Instead, it gave me the strength to grow. The man I loved did not abandon me with silence. He guided me with foresight. And though the battle was fierce, the scars have turned into markers of survival. Crestwood stands not as a fortress, but as a home, alive with the voices of tomorrow. This is how we live now, not in the shadow of loss, but in the light of resilience. And every morning, when I see the orchids bloom anew, I whisper to the air, "We are doing it. Michael, we are carrying your love forward." If this journey touched your heart, remember that it is only one of many in her true stories. Through each episode, her true stories brings you tales of love, resilience, and second chances. Every time you subscribe, you help us continue creating more of her true stories that inspire and heal. Stay with us, because the next chapter of her true stories may speak directly to your own life. Do not miss what comes next. Subscribe today and become part of the family of her true stories.